Women Talk Radio with Sandra Beck and Linda Crater celebrate the thoughts and opinions of magnetic, spirited, and influential women. Each week, bold, brilliant women spark vigorous conversations on the complexities of life, love, and happiness. Now here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Linda Crater.
Hey ladies, this is Sandra Beck and I'm here with Linda Crater, and we've got another great roundtable discussion. Today's episode is, it's the episode. It's the episode on authenticity, and we're visiting today in our roundtable with Frankie Picasso from Toronto, Ontario, Kathy Krafke coming to us from Tyler, Texas, Nancy Yearout from Lubbock, Texas, Linda Crater's in Washington, D.C., and Sharon Jameson is in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am your host, Sandra Beck, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Now, we talk a little bit about authenticity from a product standpoint. Oh, it's authentic mink, it's authentic calcium, it's authentic whatever. And what's happened over the years, girls, at least in my mind, is the concept of authenticity has become almost a brand. And with social media, I think I get confused what authenticity is, because is authenticity what I prove to be authentic to you? I mean, this is where I get tied in knots. And I'm going to go to Kathy Krafke first, because she gave me a quote this morning from Charles Swindoll. He's the Insight in Living radio host and the past president of the Dallas Theological Seminary. And he says, "I know nothing more valuable when it comes to the all-important virtue of authenticity than simply being who you are." So, Kathy, let's open the discussion on authenticity. What is it? Who has it? And how do we get it?
Well, I'm going to just tell you, Sandra, you do this to me all the time. You make me think harder than I really meant to. I got the message we were going to be talking about authenticity, and my first question was, oh my gosh, what is that? So I started thinking about it, and I remembered about the monument men in World War II and how they solved the problem of preserving the treasure of the Louvre Museum and all the beautiful artwork there, including the Mona Lisa, which I know now you can't even get close to the Mona Lisa. There's all kinds of security, and there's always a crowd. You have to lift last time I was at the Louvre in France and Paris, I had to lift my iPhone above my head to even see what we were looking at, because there were people everywhere. But can you imagine, those men took that Louvre out of the museum in a ambulance and hid it all over France for those years that the Nazis were there looking for the art, the treasures. But then the question is, how did the guys know afterwards that it was authentic? Because it's been everywhere. And I think the solution to that is those guys were so versed in knowing who the artist was. And then also they had this history of knowing which paintings they had made. And I just think about that the way I think about God, that he is the artist, and we have to be true to what he made in each one of us, because each one of us we're our own little masterpiece. We don't think of ourselves that way, but we are. And so it's really important for us to know who we are.
I like that, Kathy. So authenticity, as it pertains to a person, is genuine, or as a product, like you said, or a piece of art. It's original. So what is original? Somebody said, originality doesn't exist. In my last media for my Picasso paintings, I said everybody deserves an original. So what does that mean? There was, it's funny, I'll bring this up, but on Pawn Stars, my husband loves that show, the other day, there was a page from the Gutenberg Bible. It was deemed to be original, authentic. It went for like $80,000 a page. I mean, it's crazy. So, how do you deem something to be an original? There are experts who say they're original. Am I genuine? If I believe what I'm saying, if I believe what I'm doing, does that mean I'm genuine? Am I authentic? That's what do we have to go on except for, repeated behavior? If that's who I seem to be and that's what I do all the time, does that mean then that I am authentic? I might not be original, because we tend to borrow from people all the great stuff that they do and adopt it for ourselves.
Nancy?
Yeah, I'm listening to all this. I'm going to throw in my 2 cents here. When I think of authenticity, I think of being real and being true to yourself. And I see a lot of people out in the world, and I think about business because I'm a real estate broker. I still do a lot of real estate, and I wear a suit, but I'm also who I am. And I think authenticity is being who you are. Mm-hmm. And, you have to look yourself in the mirror. And I think people recognize, I'm going to say, I know they recognize authenticity. People know if you're real or if you're fake. And I think we've got so much fake lately instead of real. And I think people appreciate it when you're real. Don't you?
Absolutely.
I think people appreciate it, but I think authenticity comes with age. I think that when we're younger, we mimic and we imitate because we are rewarded for it. And I think it takes time to peel away all those layers of expectations and norms and paradigms to really know who you are and to be courageous enough to walk in your own power. So I think authenticity is something that you get, that it's a journey, it's a process, and it's a destination, it's a moving target, because when you know more, you do more and you do differently. And I love this quote, this African proverb. I love my proverb. And it says that nobody can use another person's teeth to smile. And I think that many times we're using other people's teeth to smile because our teeth have not formed yet. And I think it takes time to understand what you really feel and what you really know. And then after you know it, it takes some courage. And so I think that that's why middle age is so powerful. And because I know when I turn 50, I am not to be played with. I'm a soul to be reckoned with. When I was 30 and 40, in 20, 30 and 40, I was trying to find myself. But I think it comes with age. You get to experiment and experience yourself. And then that's when you become authentic. Even though God gave you the wiring, I think it takes a while for you to understand where God, he knows to walk into who that person is. And that's my own thought about it.
That is so powerful. This is Linda in DC. I'm going to take this a step further because I actually feel it when people are not authentic. I'm an empath, so I feel other people's emotions very easily, and I'm intuitive in understanding that I don't absorb it. But I feel that you're so right about the age and the self-awareness. It's a process. We are constantly evolving. And when we are around people who are authentic, we tend to feel comfortable. We tend to feel heard. And being heard is a wonderful thing in life. So often that doesn't happen. But being heard and being around those that you feel safe with and trusting, it becomes something that you seek as you get older, I think. And when you do feel it the other way around, you become more guarded. And that's when, personally, I feel a mask sort of slip on. I am not becoming less authentic, but I am warding off others not feeling the same way, not being congruent with their actions and their insides and outside. I have a quote, too. This one is, "You can find on the outside only what you possess on the inside." And I think that to be so very true. And I love that getting older strips away the artifice, and we really become who we were meant to be. At least I hope that that's the process that I'm undergoing.
I love that, Linda. And, talking about feeling safe and feeling and being able to know when somebody is authentic with you and that vibration that's in that room, being an empath. Mother Teresa, I have a quote. Mother Teresa said, "Honesty and transparency make you vulnerable. Be honest and transparent anyway." Mm-hmm. And as we're talking about aging, and we're not all old, probably the oldest, but as we age, we do find that. Here's another quote, "To thine own self be true." We can be true to ourselves. It doesn't matter what people think about us anymore, as long as what matters is what we think about ourselves. We don't have to live up to anybody's reputation. We are our reputation. We are our own authentic self. And that's a great place to be in life. I love that.
Love that.
All right. Nobody told me it was quote day, so I didn't bring a quote as the host. Thanks a lot, girls. Way to have my
Oh, sure.
back. But I do have something to say with respect to authenticity. All of us play different roles. I look on here and I see media personalities, I see sales experts, I see writers, authors. And, we play a lot of roles as women. And while you guys were talking, I was thinking of, the roles we play. We're wife, we're the lover, we're the partner, we're the mother, we're the sister, we're the daughter, we're the boss, we're the employee, we're the owner. And this goes along a little bit with Linda, with Linda Crater's comment about the masks we wear. And when I think about authenticity, I tend to bring my authentic self to the game no matter where I am. And that actually offends a lot of people. And it works in some scenarios. And like Linda Crater and I partner up on a lot of work, and she's so much better at the front face. She's the polite, the corporate presentation. She's less apt to call somebody an idiot like I am and just pay attention and sign the contract or don't, but I'm tired of this conversation, which is how I conduct business. And Linda's out there, with the like, let's have a conversation about this. I'm like, let's shoot somebody between the eyes, Linda, get off the phone.
It's all about relationships, Ann.
And that's it. There's a reason I work with computers and Linda works with people. But at the end of the day, we all have different roles. We all wear different masks. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about these roles versus masks. And we're going to lead with Sharon Jameson, because when you put things in the chat, you get called on. Just like when you make eye contact with the teacher in elementary school. We're here today with Frankie Picasso, Kathy Craffey, Nancy Year Out, Linda Crater, Sandra Beck, and Sharon Jameson. If you liked the beginning of today's show, you're going to love dynamicwomentalkradio.com. You can find this episode and many more like it, talking about kindness, drama, reputation, love, sex, money, all these kind of good things that women love to dish about. And I want to thank the women coming on the show today, because as Madeleine Albright said, we use our opinions to start conversations, not end them. We will be back after the break where we talk about this roles versus masks as women. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be right back.
We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
According to a Gallup poll, 56% of Americans want to lose weight. Most of us know that muscle burns more calories than fat. So when you're trying to lose weight, you want to lose body fat while preserving the muscle you have. Lifting weights while you're losing weight is not an option. It's a requirement. According to a Penn State study, when dieters don't pump iron, 22% of their weight loss comes from losing muscle. So if you lose 20 pounds without lifting weights, almost 5 pounds will be muscle. Upping your protein intake is important, and Columbia University researchers found that protein intake plays a significant role in preserving lean muscle mass during weight loss. Preserve your muscle as you drop the body fat. I'm Annette Hammond. Like us on Facebook at Fitness Minute with Annette Hammond.
It's words you never heard.
A few years ago, some fishermen off the coast of Italy discovered some pottery along with fish in their nets. Divers were called out and discovered an ancient Roman ship whose galley, or caboose, a nautical term for kitchen, was extremely intact. Some of the food uncovered on board was pickled fish, wine, oil, and grain used to make the ship's biscuits, otherwise known as dandy funks. It is thought the 2,000-year-old boat was probably on its way to Spain when it sunk and was covered by layers of mud, baggy wrinkles and all. Baggy wrinkles are another name for the ship's ropes. The mud protected the ship from wear, explaining why the leftover food on board was still in such good condition. We land lovers may not be familiar with leftovers on the sea, but we are familiar with leftovers in our kitchen.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Words.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and this is Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we are talking about roles versus masks. And some of the roles we play as women are wife, lover, partner, mother, sister, daughter, boss, employee, owner. You can take your pick. We are many things, and boy, if you're a mother, you can add in cook, chauffeur, maid, therapist, you name it. There's so many roles we play as women, and I know men play roles too, but this is not Dynamic Men. This is Dynamic Women. So we're going to talk about women's issues, and we're going to go to Sharon Jameson in Atlanta, Georgia, and we're going to open the conversation about the role of masks and roles.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. I believe that roles are what we do in the world, but our masks are what we wear. And we get confused when our mask and roles don't collide. But I believe that our roles can still be operated in a way when we are still being authentic. I don't think that you can authentically be a mother, lover, worker, whatever. I think that when we put on the mask, that's when things get confusing to us and confusing to others. And that's when you start to feel that uncomfortable feeling, because it's palpable when a person is showing up in their mask without in their role. And I've tell people, you can have a role and still be authentic, but don't wear your mask to the role, because my spirit, my soul is going to be repelled and repulsed by the mask, because you feel it is palpable. And I think somebody already said that. And I think that when we can understand that we don't have to wear a mask for our role, we can be who we are all the time, and we don't have to go along to get along. That's when we become powerful, and that's when we become proud of ourselves, and that feeling becomes palpable to everybody who's around us. I think we got to be careful not to let those things converge in a way that we become what I call spiritually chaotic to our own selves, and then we transmit that chaos into the world.
Good point.
Yeah.
Nancy?
I think so too. I agree with what you're saying. You had mentioned before that, it comes with age, and it does come with age, but I also, it's conflicting sometimes. I'm a spiritual person, and once you are very spiritual and you have faith and you live that way, it's difficult sometimes in business. I've been at the conference table at my office, and I've got done doing a deal, and I've looked up and said, well, bless you. And the people just looked at me like, what? But it's who I am. And they smiled, and that's who I am, and you have to be who you are. And sometimes it is difficult in business. And I don't push my beliefs on anybody, but I walk the walk and I live it, because you only know if you're true to yourself. You don't want to put the mask on. I mean, sometimes you have to, maybe not say the things that you would want to. Maybe I have to bite my tongue a few times, where I'd like to say, hey, let me tell you what I think about this or about that. And I will bite my tongue in a business setting, because I don't want to push my spiritual values on other people. But if the subject comes up, I am true to myself, and I tell them honestly what I think about things. So it does come with age, but I really think it's important for us to be real. I mean, that's all you have is your integrity and who you are. That's it. So it's so important to me, I guess, not to put the mask on and try to remain who you are and true to yourself,
I love that. Nancy, that reminds me that on the University of Texas, they have it carved into stone there, that you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
I think you're talking about being judicious. You're not compromising your values just because you're careful in the way you approach people and you're respectful of them and their beliefs. That's not lacking integrity at all. In fact, I think if anything, that is something with age, we begin to be more respectful and more sensitive to other people and where they are. We've been there. We know what it feels like.
Hello. Morning.
I agree with you. Exactly.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jackie.
Good. You guys, hold on. We're going to welcome Jacqueline Lopez to the episode today. We're talking about roles and masks we play in our authenticity. And one of the things I think that both Kathy and Nancy were talking about is about being discerning. As women, we have to discern what do we share about ourselves, whether it's our beliefs, whether it's our emotions, whether it's our political orientation, our sexual orientation. All these things come to judge women with respect to their authenticity. And the roles we play require us to be discerning in different situations. Jackie, would you like to weigh in?
Well, authenticity is a big deal for women because our imperative survival instinct as a men and women way back from the Stone Age, and also our moms and our grandmoms, without saying, they were telling you, at least that's my experience, you never tell your man that he is not making you happy in the bedroom, or you never tell your man that he's not man enough. You know what I mean? So we women, as a women, we know that we have to take care of the children. I mean, that this is hardwired in our DNA. We think that we should not be authentic with our men because culturally and socially and economically, way back when we were not free to work and become professionals and go and fight for the bread in the world, we have this imprint recording in our head. You never tell your man that he's not enough, that it's not good enough, it's not man enough, it's not good provider, etc. And that translates, and that goes to the bedroom. And then we find ourselves not telling the truth to our men, and we just being complacent with the society, that you just accept things, and that's where the lack of authenticity comes from for women. And we have to wake up. Like, we don't need the man's financial support anymore, like in the 50s or and so we are professional. We are as strong as the men, and if we are not happy as a wife or in the bedroom, if that's the case, we need to tell them clear and loud, look, this is not working for me. A lot of women who decided to just give up the sleeping with their husband altogether after they have kids and kids went away. I mean, they become like a brother and sister. I mean, it's so sad. And this is only one life. If you don't have a fantastic life in this planet Earth, where are you going to have that life? That's my message for all women. I mean, stop being scared by the recording you have in your head that you cannot tell your man what you feel about him.
Amen, sister. Woo! I agree. You're talking about not compromising yourself, but I would suggest that conversation, that truthfulness, be given to women as well as men in our lives. I don't think that we have to reserve it to tell a guy he's great in bed or that he's you're wonderful. I think you're doing him a disservice, and you're doing yourself a disservice, because, hey, you could be having a great time in bed if you just showed him what you want, right? If you were honest about it. But we're talking about authenticity too, and we're talking about the mask that we wear. And Sandra, you were saying, you put Linda's a front person because you're just too blunt. But there are people who love that personality. There are people who love that bluntness about you. I'm certainly one of them, because you know what? I always know where I stand. Mm-hmm. I know, you're not going to lie to me. And that's, we like that. Brene Brown, if I can do one more quote, she talks about if you trade your authenticity for safety, which is what Jackie was talking about, you may experience the following: anxiety, depression, eating disorders, addiction, rage, blame, resentment, and inexplicable grief. I mean, that's a lot to gain by just compromising who you are. And we don't want those gains. They're not positive gains. So, when the ego is front and forward in telling you, oh, put a mask on. No, don't. Be who you are. Don't be afraid. Don't compromise yourself. Go forward in the world. Be authentic, and you'll get everything that you want.
I love that. This is Linda. I think that I have a slightly different view on the masks, because when I put on a mask, when I say that, I'm simply preserving myself. I'm not letting others influence me by their inauthenticity. And so I use a mask as a protection for me after long learning that otherwise people who are inauthentic or just plain scary to be around because their value systems change all the time, it preserves me. It allows me to be exactly who I am. But I think the really interesting thing about being genuine or authentic in your communication, in your actions, in being congruent in all of your life, is that there are some people who absolutely do not know what to do with you, because you can't be manipulated. You are who you are. You are direct. And Sandra, by the way, it's direct, not blunt. You're good. So I just find that I'd love to, we're coming up on a break shortly, and I know we have some people who want to chime in, but I would love to talk more about the fact that sometimes others don't know what to do with us. And are we then influencing them to be more authentic because they don't quite know what to do with us when we are unbudgeable in our character, in our authenticity, in how we speak, what we believe? Because masks exist to protect us. They can hide us as well, but if you don't use it for hidden, it can protect us. So I would really love to come back after this break and talk more with these amazing dynamic women about how does that change, or do you have the power to change others when you are authentic, and does that make them think twice? So I am very excited. We have many more shows and articles and lots of resources in our guest bios posted on our website, which is at dynamicwomentalkradio.com. You can listen to these shows, and I think you'll find that when you take a look at the topics we touch and the way all of the conversations are with wonderful respect and joy and camaraderie, you're going to wish that you had these ladies around your table each and every day. We'll be right back. We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
The New York Times reports that in almost every way, we tend to choose mates that look, sound, and act like we do. Except in the area of money, where we seem to choose a person who is our polar opposite. In other words, spendthrifts and tightwads tend to marry each other. Unfortunately, having different spending habits can be a major cause of marital conflict. I admit to being a bit of an oniomaniac. That's a compulsive shopper. While my husband is a cluster fist. He always holds my hand when we go shopping. Otherwise, I'll have a massity. That's the itch to buy. I once took him with me to shop for a party dress. He looked at the tag and his face suddenly turned white and his palms became sweaty. I guess that's why women's stores always have those comfy chairs outside the dressing rooms. It's for your husband to sit down in when he sees the price tag. I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my free app, Too Funny for Word.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
The fat that is deep within your abdomen and fills the spaces between your internal organs is called visceral or liver fat. This belly fat poses a crucial threat to your health and needs to be taken seriously. Aerobic exercise such as brisk walking, jogging, and swimming burns calories. Resistance exercise such as weightlifting builds bones and strengthens muscles. Both of these modes of exercise are important, and both should be a part of your exercise program. Duke University Medical Center researchers performed a study and found that if you are trying to reduce visceral fat, aerobic exercise is your best choice. Aerobic exercise burns 67% more calories than resistance training, the researchers found. So concentrate on aerobic exercise to burn away that dangerous visceral fat. I'm Annette Hammond. To hear other fitness and weight loss tips, visit our website at AnnetteHammond.com.
ladies, this is Sandra Beck and Linda Crater with Dynamic Women, and we are visiting today with Frankie Picasso, Sharon Jameson, Kathy Craffey, Nancy Yearout, Jacqueline Lopez, and Sharon Jameson. And it's a tough topic when we talk about authenticity because there are so many threats to our authenticity, and there are big, big challenges for standing up for the truth. I know I have been fired, I've been criticized, I've been challenged, probably divorced, when I have been my true authentic.
She's thinking about it.
Well, I'm just thinking I can't speak for my ex-husband for wanting a divorce, but clearly my authentic me, my authentic self, which is to speak really, I don't know what you guys called it, bluntly, directly.
Yes, it's direct.
Okay, there's a cost for me to be so direct. And I have been in relationships and friendships, one including a Navy SEAL commander who told me I hurt his feelings all the time because he's like, I've never met somebody so direct. And, coming from a SEAL, you just go, wow, really? If we can just disable terrorists by my direct speech, I should be president.
Yeah.
But
that's what you call me. Go, what did I do?
That's right. When we sit in our authentic self, when we truly embrace who we are, and I love who I am. I'm really sorry if I offend people or hurt their feelings or they don't like it, but I can only be myself. And when we do that, people generally fall away. And now new wonderful people like yourselves take that place. But there are a lot of threats in our society, especially with the pervasive image portrayed by social media. Social media is so, here's my perfect family. Here's my perfect relationship. Oh, we're celebrating 35 years together. And I'm like, I just saw you guys at movie night in the park. You were like ripping each other's heads off, but yet the picture is like a big heart on social media. Look, we love. So I think that we get a lot of messages, mixed messages about authenticity. I'm going to go to Sharon Jameson first.
I think authenticity is so key, but I think that when we are authentic, we liberate ourselves from the needs and the perceptions of others in a very visible way. Because I believe only free people can free people. So if I'm free in being who I am and showing not only my stars, but my scars, and you can see all of me, I allow people to be who they are, then we all don't have to collude in this lying game. And I just think it's just so important. And I think that when we are not authentic, we not only betray ourselves, but we betray others. And that's what is the hard part. And then we all kind of participate in this big lie. And so I believe that free people free others. And so I have to be free to be who I am. And this is a saying that we say in the South, I'd rather pay the price than to submit to the cost. And I think that's so key. So I'd rather pay the price of being who I am than submit to the cost of not, because the cost of me not being who I am, it costs too much. It's too darn expensive. Emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, financially. And so I think if we become, and when we are able to stand in our truth, we allow and liberate and free people to be who they are and to stand in their truth. I think it has a domino effect.
I love that. Oh my gosh, Sharon, I just love that. If I'm free, I allow people to be who they are is the message that you're speaking. And I think that's so important. Sometimes we forget. We think life is all about, Kathy, I'm so self-centered, blah, blah, blah. But really, it's about other people. It's about having integrity for who I am so that I can be effective and influential and a blessing in other people's lives. And we were talking about threats to integrity and authenticity. And a couple of the ones I thought of is there's a lack of respect sometimes. We don't respect ourselves. And I think Frankie would really probably love to jump all over this. We don't respect ourselves, so that makes it hard to respect others. But also, I was thinking about Hitler and authenticity and the threat to that art. And he had decided in his head that modern art and Jewish art were, and this is the quote, degenerate. That was his judgment against a whole segment of art that is so precious and beautiful and culturally relevant. And I think sometimes we do that with other people. We just decide they're not, we just don't respect them. Anyway, and I think that's a threat to our own authenticity. But when we free ourselves up to really love who we are, then we are free and we set other people free. Jump in there. And by the way, Jackie, before you do, I have one more thing. I love it that Jackie jumped in here and she was so real.
Yeah. Kathy, I think what you're talking about in regards like to Hitler and him talking about degenerate art is fear. That mirror he held up that mirror to himself as we often do. We don't always think that it's a mirror shining back at us the things that we don't like in others, but it is. And so Hitler was an artist and he was a pretty good artist. But I think for him, it was his fear caused him to, as it often does, to reach out and hurt those that he feared the most. And that is what he feared in himself, really. And that was a mask. And so he wore a mask all those years. He did. And unfortunately, he never took it off. And he became this persona and this crazy person who, we all don't love. But, I want to talk about, here's a really good example, if I can give it really quickly. A friend of mine, being her true self, a woman in the world, being authentic. She had an Infinity, and she took her car for servicing, and when they do an oil change, they're supposed to do a tire check and a brake check or something like that, and it came back that they charged her for brakes, and 2 weeks later she had to get her car serviced and somebody else took it, and they go, oh, your brakes are seized, they're held together, they're stuck together actually. So she went back to Infinity and she said, did you guys do this brake check you were supposed to do it? Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, we did. And she goes, well, the situation has come up that they're actually stuck together. So I don't think you really did do that. And she took her car in and they said that they're going to fix it. And they gave her a loaner. And they said, now you have to put gas in our loaner when you bring it back. Now she just went from point A to B and came back. And she says, I'm not paying gas. And they're going, no, but you have to fill it up. She goes, no, I really don't have to. And she was not rude. She goes, but the first time I brought my car here, I paid gas myself, and now you're asking me to come back because you didn't do the job you said you were going to do, and you want me to pay gas twice. So I'm not going to put gas in your car. And she just stood up for herself. That assertiveness training. I'm not going to do it. No, sir, that's fine, but I'm not going to do it. And she didn't. And she got away with it. And they said, okay, like they gave up on her or gave in to her just because she was her true self. She was standing up for her rights. She was standing up for what was fair, and she was being they didn't know what to do with this one. We talk about not knowing what to do with somebody, Linda Creeder. They did not know what to do with her. And like this guy's like, yeah, but I think you have to. She goes, no, I really don't. And she laughed and she drove off with her car. They fixed it and away she went. She didn't have to pay for it. But I think that's what we need to do. We need to stand up without our mask. I don't know if we need a mask. I don't know. You think the mask saves you, but does the mask save you really? Or can you just not be who you are with the face that you have and just be nice anyway, or be authentic anyway, or put forward and be who you are? I think, Sandra can show up in the world and be who she is. Sandra is who she is all the time, whether she's being, refreshingly honest, or even in her emails, when you send Sandra an email, she just wants the subject in the subject line. Like, just tell me what you want in the subject line. You don't even have to write a body, because that's how quick she is, But that's in everything she is, and who she is carries through everything she does. We know that that's authentic. She's not being rude. She's not being short with us. She's not being blunt. She's just being her, because she's only got so many hours in a day. And just give me the message, ma'am. Just give me the message. True to herself.
Thank you. Thanks, Jacqueline.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the Stone Age. Why do people put up an act? Why do we want so badly to be liked, to be loved, to be wanted? That's the pursuit of happiness. The underline is we want to be liked, wanted, because in the old age, we were part of the menu if you were not liked, if we were ostracized, if you were not liked. So what we do is we put up an act to be liked, to be loved, to be needed. So that's why it's embedded in our wiring. And I ask everybody here to be courageous and drop that neediness to be liked and to be loved. You're going to be liked. If you're not liked by a certain kind of group of people or person in your life and your family, maybe that's a good thing. I mean, don't compromise yourself because you just want to be liked. and then you look at yourself in the mirror and you feel like less than, you don't like yourself because you've been put in this mask. But you have to be courageous to be your authentic self. You're now no longer threatened by an animal to be eaten or ostracized from your group, from your your society or family or group of friends. If they don't like you, too bad. Just accept that. So that's what I say. Be courageous and be yourself.
And I think
Sharon?
I think courage is so important, and I think it's easy to tell someone to be courageous, but we know that courageous to me is a journey, and you gain courage step by step when you're able to keep being who you are. I think sometimes we tell people to be courageous, but we haven't modeled it. We haven't given them the skills to do it. We have not celebrated them when they have done it. So I think that we have to say, if we're professing something, but we're not preaching it, or giving people, or promoting it, or supporting people in it, I think it's difficult. I think it's so key that if we tell people to do something, that we provide support to do it. And I don't care if you're 5 or 55. I think courage is something that is an ongoing journey. And I think that if we tell people that it takes a moment, it takes a process, it takes a journey. You can never do it by yourself. None of us become our best selves by ourselves. I think people will not be so hard on themselves when they don't stand in courage. Because when they don't stand in courage, they beat themselves up. And then what it does is to minimize them, and they're less likely to do it and try again. So I think that's really, really important. Yes, do it, but also be it, and also support women who try to do it so that they have support, they have affirmation, that they know that they can stand alone and be okay. I think we have to teach people and support people to do that. To tell somebody to do it by themselves, I don't think it's realistic for some people. For some people.
Well, I do. I definitely think we need validation, we need comfort, we need support from other women, because we can be our own worst enemies. Now, I'm going to take us to commercial break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about an interesting topic. Have you ever been proud to be rejected? And that's not something that we embrace as a society. Rejection is painful, rejection is tough, but if you can be proud of a rejection, I want to hear about it after the break.
We're Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we'll return after these short messages.
This is TogiNet, Cutting Edge Radio. It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
As summer ends and fall schedules begin, it may be time to reset your healthy habits. For most of us, it was a lazy, crazy summer, and many took a vacation from healthy living. Backyard barbecues, relaxing on the beach, and taking in the ambiance of outdoor restaurant eating may have led to weight gain. You may have eaten things that you know were not so low-calorie and nutritious, and maybe you even let your daily exercise go by the wayside. It's time to get that weight off and increase your daily exercise. It's time to get back on your healthy living routine. It's easy to reset. Exercise every day for 30 to 60 minutes. Make it a priority and don't miss. Go back to planning your meals to keep your good eating choices at the forefront. By changing a few daily habits, you can get back to healthy living and feeling great. I'm Annette Hammond.
Hey, ladies, this is Sandra Beck, and I'm here with Linda Crater, and this is Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and we are talking today about authenticity and our authentic selves. And the topic for this last segment roundtable is, have we ever been proud to be rejected? Now, I got to tell you, I went on a date shortly after my divorce, and the guy was so handsome, and he was a successful lawyer, and he was just everything on paper I thought I was looking for. And in our dinner date, I asked him, what do you miss most about being married? And he said to me, I miss having my clean underwear folded next to my socks in my drawer. I missed having the refrigerator full and my wife putting food on the table. And I just looked at him and I thought, of all the things in a marriage, that's what you miss most. Like, you couldn't hire a maid, you couldn't hire a housekeeper or a cook. I mean, of all the things of value to give to someone, and I know people like, there's the 5 love languages and acts of service and presents and I don't know, whatever it is, give me a tech gift and I'll love you forever, I guess. But I was very happy to be rejected by him. I was very happy that he never called me again. And I think the horrified look on my face said everything. And I'm sure I made some snarky comment, but I'd like to. I'm sure I did. I wish I could remember it. But I'm going to go to Nancy Year Out and find out, have you ever been happy to be rejected, Nancy?
I was thinking about that over the break. And I guess what really helped me, which has been really crazy, I was a single mom for years, and my kids were little when I became a single mother. And I would go to school to different functions, and of course, the other women didn't want to speak to me. They were with their husbands, and they would look at me like I was an outcast because here I was, a single mom by myself with the 2 kids. And it was really hurtful for a long time to go to school functions. But what it did was it made me stronger, and it made me stand up for myself a little bit more. And it really molded who I am today. I have gotten to a point where, the rejection bothers everybody to a certain degree. That's just who we are. We're human. But I think it really helped me learn to stand up for myself and be okay with being a single mom and be okay with being the mom and dad both for a while. And I'm really proud of my accomplishments with my children. They've grown up to be wonderful adults. And I just think people respect you more when you are who you are. And you guys talked about the energy, and you can feel the vibe. We're all intuitive, and we all feel that good energy when somebody is themselves and they are authentic. And I just think that if you are rejected, sometimes good comes out of it,
I love that, Nancy. This is Linda. I think that the times I've been rejected were blessings in disguise. The kind of I missed the bullet kind of experiences. And again, like Sandra's, mostly relationships. But, I don't have a good story like the dinner table conversation, but I will say that our means of communication these days, like texting, is not good relationship material. And when people communicate only in small sound bites that can be misinterpreted, that's pretty scary. So my little story about being rejected and being a blessing is that I was seeing someone and they decided to break off the relationship by text message. And I thought, perfect. I don't need to be part of this anymore. And I laughed out loud because that is such a silly, infantile, cowardly way to end. It was a previous friendship that had grown into more, but it was so good because then there was absolutely no need to step in and do anything further because that was a blessing to me. So I think sometimes those moments when we are rejected they're wonderful.
Boy, and I'm just going to jump in behind you, Linda Crater. This is Kathy. And I want to say how grateful I am that in your life there's enough room for me to be a part of your friendship circle. So that person did me a huge favor, and I'm grateful.
It's a blessing for both of us.
I think so. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. I like what my husband says on this. He says, I'll take the blame now because it'll be credit later. And I've had that experience where we had one nonprofit gentleman that I had to deal with, and my son was not engaged, but involved, because of his leadership role. My son also had some contact with the same guy, and it was so stressful, but we just kept pushing against his bullying. But I was so happy when it was over because I didn't have to deal with him anymore. It wasn't a relationship or even a friendship. It was just a sense of authority that we had to respect for a while. And once it was done, the beautiful thing that came out of it is my son learned so much about how to not be in leadership. He learned all the bad habits that bullying leaders can have. And so it was just a wonderful experience, but it was very painful at the time to have to engage with somebody who was so authoritarian and not able to listen or ask good questions. And he just had a lot of bad habits as a leader. So we were really happy when we were no longer involved in any way with that nonprofit. But we still said there's a blessing that came out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to tell a story about how I became, I made friendship with rejection. One, when I was a young woman, I never thought I was beautiful. My sister was the pretty one. And early on, I learned that I'm going to be kind of the second in the family in terms of beauty. So I think that built a sense of worthiness beyond the beauty. So that's another thing that happened in my life. That I decided to be an entrepreneur, and being an entrepreneur, and if you don't make friends with rejection, you are going to fail badly. And so I learned those two lessons. One, I'm not going to be the pretty one, so I'm going to just have to accept rejection from men, and that I kind of make peace with that. And then being an entrepreneur and being on the telephone selling yourself all the time, or in person, you have to make friends with rejection. Otherwise, you're not going to survive this life. You just make peace with it. So that's what I did. That's how I master rejection. I make friends with it. I cannot tell you that just make a whole difference in my life. Instead of avoiding to be rejected, make friend with it. Make friendship.
I agree. I think it's so important to master rejection. I learned how to deal with rejection early on because I started school when schools were still integrating. And I remember starting school when I was 5 years old, and my kindergarten teacher hit me in the head with a chair because she said I was attacking her. And then by the time I was in second grade, a couple of kids jumped on me and gave me a concussion, and the nurse did not call my mother because she told my mother she thought that black kids had hard heads. So throughout my life was full of rejection because I was always the only one, the first one, as being a woman of color. But then after I went through a lot of therapy, because it was really, really painful, I had to learn that rejection really is needed for my elevation. And so when I'm rejected from people who don't have my best interest or who don't understand who I am, or a person who would make me have to prove my value, is really elevating me. So I always say rejection is elevation, because then I don't have to worry about trying to appease people who don't have my best interest or who won't like you anyway because they don't like themselves. And it allows me to understand that rejection is not a bad thing. But I had to learn that. But my whole life told me that I was outside of the norm, outside of the margin. I was not one of the group, one of the crowd. But when you learn that when you're young, it can either be a gift or it can be a gutter. And I chose it to be a gift to me versus be falling into the gutter of worthlessness and helplessness and powerlessness, because all of those are learned behavior. So I think that rejection is good, and I'm glad that my son learned how to get rejected early on when he didn't make the basketball team or he wasn't in the in crowd, because it does something to you. It gives you a resilience that cannot be taught or bought, because you know that who you are, even if people don't clamor to you. So I think rejection is something, like Jackie said, you have to master. Once you get it, you are unstoppable.
Well, talking about unstoppable, it's the unstoppable Frankie. Thanks for that segue, Sharon. You are a gift to the world. You truly are, and I love that. I don't like to be rejected. It really hurts my feelings, and so hopefully none of you hate me. But no, seriously, like in business, rejection. I agree with Jackie. You turn it into a game. In coaching, we learn to turn it into a game. And so, you say, oh, yeah, you need like 9 no's, and then you get a yes. So every 9 no's, and then you get a yes. So it's fun. It becomes a fun thing to be rejected. But I was rejected a couple of years ago by a friend who I gave everything to. She called me 10 times a day. We went out every single day. And, I guess she didn't need my advice anymore. So one day she just stopped calling after 3 years of every day. And that did hurt my feelings. And I didn't understand. The gift was I didn't have to expend so much energy on all of her problems. So that was a good thing. So, I love that. So yeah, I'm sure that I have amplified my quote unquote gifts to get rejected before. And that is a blessing, Kathy and Sharon. Yeah. I love it. So there you go. Oh, thanks.
Well, I don't know. Rejection is tough. I think when you're a teenager and you're in high school and all of that, it's really tough. And like Sharon said, if you can get the rejection thing down to where you're not taking it personal and you can learn from it, then you become a little bit better person. It's tough. I get on Facebook now. It's kind of funny. And, I pick up all these friends that I had in high school that I haven't talked to in years. And still, everything is still the same way it was back then. It's so funny, but I'm such a different person. So I think, when you learn and you get a little older, like we've talked about, you learn how to deal with rejection a little bit better. And as you get older and you get out into the business world, like you guys were talking about coaching and getting out there and doing cold calling when you're in real estate, you have to deal with rejection. That's just part of the business, and it makes you tougher and it makes you a little bit more thick-skinned, I think.
Nancy, I love that. I think that we often find that rejection, as I mentioned earlier, is a blessing, and it does make you stronger. I also think that it removes toxic people from our lives. And so those that are toxic to us are truly not being authentic with us or genuine with us, tying us back to our topic. And I heard this wonderful quote by Eric Barker, I think it was on LinkedIn, and it said, "It's wonderful when toxic people stop talking to you. It's like the trash took itself out." And I love that. I thought that was absolutely hilarious, because when there are people who are not in your sphere of values, character, they're not direct, they wear masks, they're not kind, they don't have the courage to tell the truth, any of those things, I think that by removing those people from our lives, it makes room for other people to come in. And so it's not from the scarcity mindset, it's from the abundance mindset, which I think is so very important for us to embrace. We don't do that all the time. I think we're hanging on to things sometimes, but we are done. Come back to us next week. We would love to have you join us on Dynamic Women Talk Radio. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for tuning in today to Dynamic Women Talk Radio, and join us each week. You can find more shows on dynamicwomentalkradio.com.